Tonight we're very honored to have with us Kreskin, the internationally famous mentalist and also author of some of the greatest writings on extrasensory perception. And Mr. Kreskin, welcome to Montana.
Oh, I am so overwhelmed. I got out of the plane, of course. As you know, I have no winter clothing. And I have taken up, as of a year ago, January, cross-country skiing. And here, I see all the snow here. I just almost feel like breaking away.
We hope you'll come back and ski here.
Absolutely.
You have said that the potential of our minds has not even begun to be realized, and yet you've been realizing your mind's potential for many years. Is it difficult to turn off your mind? It must go all the time. When can you relax away from the power of your mind?
I'll tell you, Norma, you know what is even more difficult? Really, I can't do this all of the time. I have to prepare myself before I go on stage, even before I go on a television show. So I walk about a mile or 2 miles before I walk in front of an audience. I must be alone about 45 minutes to an hour. In fact, it's been a joke for years, and it's like the Carson show. When they can't find me, they know that I'm roaming the hallways down the studio. And this is the way, most people say, well, gee, do you sit and meditate quietly? I'm such a hyperactive person when I work that the way I meditate is I walk and slowly detach myself from the problems of the day. But to do this every moment of the day, to be working with people's thoughts, would not give me an equal relationship with my friends. It would not be one-to-one. They'd become uncomfortable. And frankly, after a while, I would be totally exhausted because I lose 2 pounds every program. I eat 5 meals a day. Haven't gained a pound in 19 years. Except last week, because of an incident, I lost 6 pounds for the first time in my life, and I'm slowly gaining it back again.
Could we maybe give a tip or two to some of our viewers out there about names? Obviously, with your mental capacity, you must have no difficulty at all of remembering names. Is that correct? Is that a correct assumption?
I have one of the worst memories conceivable. So bad that things seem to slip my mind. I think what's happened, Norma, and everybody would expect me to have a fantastic memory. I suppose I have a selective memory. I can memorize a shuffle deck of cards in about 32 seconds. And my mind is very sharp and keyed up when I'm on stage. But I'm not a memory expert. I deal with people's thinking processes. I think off stage, it's like a compensation. It's not that I fall apart. I have become incredibly absent-minded. But all authorities on memory feel that the best way to memorize is when we meet someone. First of all, we don't listen. Let me tell you something, and I cannot give the name of this famous comedian. He is so hung up on how little we all listen to anyone when we first meet them, that for the past 7 years, when he's met people at a cocktail party, he's gone up to them, and they'll say, oh, gee, Mr. So-and-so, that was a hilarious act. He says, oh, it's a pleasure to meet you, Mr. Smith. I just raped your wife. What did you think of the singer on the show? And they said, well, the singer I thought was kind of intriguing. And he's told me that only twice in 8 years has anyone ever heard him say, I just raped your wife. So this is a clue. We don't usually hear a person's name when they're introduced. We should look at them, kind of think of their features, and use their name 4 or 5 times in a conversation. Because our hearing and our sight, vision coordinated, usually reinforces an association. But we don't pay that much attention. We suffer in our culture. And television's been good to me also, as to you, but we suffer from kind of a verbal diarrhea.
Right.
We have something on all the time that we're not listening.
I know you have attitudes and opinions about lots of things that are happening in our society today, and of course right now we're all looking at the situation with the presidential race for 1976. Have you given this some thought, and do people ask you about your opinions, what's going to happen in this bad race we've got going on right now?
You have asked me a $6,400,000, not $64,000 question. I'm not a Gene Dixon. I can't foretell the future really in any way. I have no knowledge. One thing though bothers me, and it reflects, Norma, the irresponsibility of some people on the peripheral areas of my field, some who may call themselves psychics. Someone has already predicted that the person who will run for president in 1980 will die in office, probably because they have realized that in the entire history of the United States, except I think for one president, every single president in an even 0 year has died in office. But the irresponsibility, Norma, of making that prediction, after all, think of a homicidal person who may hear it and think, well, this has been decreed, I'm going to fulfill fate. I not only do not believe there's any predestination that someone's going to die in office, but I would never want to plant such a seed.
Right. Moving to the lighter side, Kreskin, tell us, I hear you do something interesting with your check that you get paid in every performance.
It's a nightmare. In every concert, I turn my check over to a committee from the audience, and the committee does not meet before the show. No one even knows who's the committee is going to be. I leave the theater, my check is hidden anywhere in the theater, and when I come back, the committee thinks of where it's hidden. If I fail, I forfeit my fee. I failed 3 times last year, but through the years, you know, my check has been hidden in the loaded gun of a policeman's revolver, at the Waldorf, it was stuffed in a turkey,